And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfro. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon and welcome aboard. Excuse my voice. It is, for whatever reason, lost today. I've been trying to find it, and hopefully I'll have enough to get through the next couple of hours. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You can download that into your phone. It's free, and that's where you can watch and listen to our program daily in its entirety. And if you watch anything, you can go back and check it out there as well. Head to jbandgoldwatershow.com for much more, and also, of course, for all of those available options across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It's also our text line. It is open. So are all of our chat rooms, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you are. Podbean, you might be there. You can always send us a note. We'll pop it into the program and make it a part of our afternoon, just like Tyler there. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon to you, Tyler. And good afternoon here in just a few minutes to Skylar Meade, pitching coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks. Huge series for them this weekend. Cory McCartney at 12:30, David Cloninger at 1:30. NIL bill clears the State House yesterday. It's going to head to the governor's desk to be signed. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some SEC Media Days stuff, by the way, that we need to make sure we get out. J.C. Horn, Freddie Freeman struck out last night to Anthony Rizzo, amongst other things with Cory McCartney. So there's a lot to get to. And again, Skylar's going to check in with us here in just a couple of minutes ahead of their trip this afternoon. And what a trip it is. I'll explain all that in a minute. But it is draft day, Darren. Such an important day for so many men who are going to be National Football League players here over the next couple of days. And tonight we're expected to see Trevor Lawrence go number one. He'll be the first ever top draft pick in Clemson football history. Matter of fact, he'll be the only player in the history of the school to go in the top three. They've had four go number four, most recently Cleveland Ferrell in 2019. But tonight it'll be Trevor Lawrence's night as number one. Good afternoon, Darren Goldwater.
Yeah, there's zero doubt that it'll be Trevor Lawrence that goes number one. If you check out any of the MyBookie odds or any odds anywhere, I mean, the odds are to the point where if you put $100 on Trevor Lawrence, you make like 20 cents. Yeah. So like it's an absolute guarantee. The draft pretty much starts at 3. Whether or not it's Mac Jones, Trey Lance going to the 49ers, who goes there, and then that pretty much affects how the next couple picks certainly are going to go, and I think that's where it starts to get interesting. I've never been a huge NFL draft guy. I know there's a lot of people who really look forward to it. It's a really long night of sitting in front of the TV, waiting 10 or 15 minutes to see a name called, and then the highlights that you've seen for months circle back around. It's cool to me. It's one of those things also, though. I'm happy watching a baseball game and like checking my phone to see who went 3 and then who went 4. I'm good with that, but I get the excitement, and it's life-changing for these guys, and I get that part too.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I will probably watch until I see J.C. Horn come off the board tonight. We know Trevor will come off early. The latest mock draft out by Todd McShay is interesting. It was released this morning. He's got Zach Wilson going 2 and Trey Lance going 3 to the San Francisco 49ers. He's got J.C. Horn actually not going at 10 to Dallas. He's got him dropping to 16, and that would be to Arizona. He also has Mac Jones, by the way, going 15 to New England. So we'll continue to get more into that throughout the afternoon. Again, it is draft day. Congratulations to all those young men. This guy knows a little bit about the draft, the baseball draft, that is. But today, they won't be worried about any of that stuff. They'll be trying to get to Charlotte, and then Charlotte to Memphis, and then Memphis to Oxford, and then Oxford to Olive Branch. All of that. Today, the Gamecocks will make that entire trip to get to Mississippi, get a workout in, and then get some sleep before they start playing tomorrow night. Gamecocks and Ole Miss in a very important series this weekend, and Skylar Meade has been kind enough to squeeze us into his busy travel day schedule. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm starting to not look forward to the rest of the day just thinking about that travel, but at least there's a good light at the end of the tunnel with playing nice weather and some good baseball, hopefully.
Absolutely. I'm going to apologize to you, too. I'm not sick, but I don't have a voice, and I don't know why. I woke up this morning and literally couldn't talk. So we're just going to barrel through this thing. Let me lay this out for everybody. Let me lay this out. Skylar, it's going to take me 1 minute, so bear with me. But to be clear, though, Friday night and Saturday night are 6 o'clock or Central Time first pitches, correct?
I believe actually 6:30 tomorrow, and then 6 o'clock on Saturday night because of SEC Network.
Okay, so 6:30.
That is.
That's right, Central Time, 6:30, 6, and 11:30 a.m. Central Time on Sunday. So this is what it looks like, Darren. Check this out. This is, I think, ridiculous, and I feel for you, and I really feel for Colin Burgess. But they're gonna bus to Charlotte today. Get on a flight, fly to Memphis, get off in Memphis, get on a bus down to Oxford, do the normal workout the day before the game, get back on the bus afterwards, bus an hour tonight, late tonight to their hotel, get some sleep, wake up tomorrow, bus back to Oxford, play the game. After the game, another hour bus ride, same thing on Saturday. And then guess what? They get home late Saturday night, and they got to get up and do all of that again on Sunday morning about 6 a.m, play the game, bus to Memphis, get on a flight, fly to Charlotte, bus back to Columbia. Holy smokes. I mean, that Skylar, I know that you have a bunch of tough guys, and you know what? Good thing, because you've been on a lot of road trips in your life. That travel, that can be difficult if you don't manage it correctly.
There's no doubt about it. Thankfully, we've had a couple, kind of unique trips. The LSU one was a little unique and kind of what you had to do. And part of it this weekend is to no one's fault. I mean, obviously, you got graduations coming up, and that's what's going on in Oxford. That's making it. And Oxford's not a big town.
No. Fun town.
But, that's why you have to go stay in. Yeah, fun town. But yeah, that's why you got to go stay in Olive Branch or, look at other options as we were trying to do. And so, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a unique weekend. But like I said, thankfully, we've done some deals, going down to Texas was kind of a tough travel. LSU was a tough travel. So I think our guys will be prepared, and hopefully they'll take care of themselves properly and understand the things that allow them to either play good down there, or if they were a guy that maybe struggled with it, make some slight alterations to have themselves physically and mentally prepared to go on Friday night.
What does it look like for a guy like Colin Burgess? I'm sure he's going to catch all 3 games this weekend. And so when he's done on Saturday night after game 2, what do you do with that guy? Do you have some type of ice bath shoved in the back of a bus somewhere? What do you do with him?
Yeah, that's certainly part of his home routine here. He just, one thing is certainly hydrating, which I think baseball players in general have made a good change over, which I've seen over the last 10 years or so, in terms of just the emphasis on hydrating, your nutrition, the way that you kind of take care of your body, and so I think guys like Colin and a lot of our other guys, pitchers included, they do a pretty good job of, icing post game if that's what they need in their legs. I know pitchers don't ice as much anymore. That's kind of a thing that's kind of gone by the wayside, but Colin definitely will have to be saddled up and be prepared to do his deal, but he's done it often, and he'll continue to do it well. And if if he needs any sort of relief, I know Wes Clark will be prepared to do his thing too.
How is Colin doing? He has just carried the load for you this year. How's he feel? Is he banged up? I mean, all catchers are banged up when you get into the month of May. I get that, but overall, how would you summarize his health today?
Hey, he's doing pretty good. He took a couple good shots last week in the night game, against Arkansas. That those will kind of take a toll on you, certainly, but as a whole, he's doing really well. He was in the weight room. I saw him, in there with Coach Anderson this morning, kind of moving around. And, I saw a couple swings yesterday in the midst of having some bullpen, stuff like that. I saw him take a couple good swings. So from all indications, he's doing quite well.
South Carolina and Ole Miss, 7:30 tomorrow night is game 1 of this 3-game set in Oxford, Mississippi, a 13-19 matchup. Someone might hear that and go, wow, Ole Miss slid to 19. Yeah, don't let that fool you. They are really, really, really good, and Oxford is a very difficult place. What do you? How are you keeping your guys from going into right field and drinking beer during the game, Skylar?
Well, yeah, let's hope we don't have any issues with that. But yeah, that's a different world down there in Mississippi. I'm really close with the Mississippi State staff, and I was talking to those guys this morning, and look, they think Ole Miss is a top 5 ball club, and there was a reason that they were a lot of the year. And, obviously we hope that we don't do anything this weekend to help their ranking, but they're a really good team. They got, 2 arms that are as high level as it gets, and they're Friday, Saturday guys, Hoglund and Nikhazy, and they have the best offense in the SEC, them in Arkansas have really been kind of a nuisance. And so they play well in their park. There'll be 12,000 people out there. Hopefully we can just do a good job of, one, just being very, tunnel vision to our process, on the mound and in the field and at the plate. But it will certainly be the most people we have seen in the stands in a long time. And probably the most for many of our guys, for that matter, because we hadn't had a lot of guys that had SEC experience on this team. So I think it'll be a really cool deal, but I think we'll be up to the challenge, most certainly.
Ole Miss is 20-7 at home. They are 5-6 in their last 11 games. That number shouldn't be in any way, shape, or form undervaluing this program or anything like that. It's the SEC. When you have consecutive weekends with Florida, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and LSU, yeah, you're going to lose some games. That's just the way it goes. And obviously, Skylar, your guys understand that. You're coming off of a series loss against the top-ranked Hogs. But Thomas Farr was really good. And so I want to talk about him. He's a guy that you've really been trying to get going as your Friday night dude for the last month. I thought he was special. You didn't get the win, but I thought he was really special. He gave you a great chance to win, but most importantly, his stuff looked good. I guess that was last Thursday. Yes,
I totally agree with that, Jamie. He did a great job. All 3 pitches were working. I mean, honestly, he made one mistake. The 0-2 to Robert Moore. There was a pitch we were going to. We were trying to elevate a little, a lot out of the zone, and Thomas made one pitch and just, didn't go where he wanted. But in a 100-pitch night, you throw 99 well, you'll take those odds more time than not. And so I was very happy with his approach. I thought his psyche and focus level was great. He attacked the zone. And Arkansas, is no joke. They are as good as you'll see offensively in college baseball this year. And so, I think you've probably phrased it this way before when we've talked. You just got to give yourself a chance to win every game. There are going to be games that don't go your way. Robert hits that 2-run homer. It's 3-1. We botch a couple plays. Boom, you lose. Okay, well, we'll take our odds. If we can just be in every game, we're going to get some big hits. We're going to make a big play defensively, or we're going to make a big pitch in a tight spot. And so hopefully Thomas can do that again tomorrow night. I think he'll be up to the challenge. I did think last week was a big week for him, just kind of refining and retuning a couple things. And I look for him to build highly off that.
12-14 Thursday afternoon, April 29th. We're almost out of this month and into the month of May. As a pitching coach, Skylar, these guys, this is college baseball. This is the highest level of baseball that I believe you can play until you get to AA. I think the SEC is just exceptional, and I know that there are many out there that echo those comments. But as the pitching coach for a guy like Thomas Farr, who clearly understands what he is in every week. All your guys do, especially an experienced dude like him. When he threw that 0-2, everybody knew it was gone. The replay, you knew it was gone. He knew it was gone. Burgess definitely knew it was gone, just by his reaction behind the plate. What is that conversation like when he comes into the dugout? I mean, it's not like you have to coach him through it. He threw a belt high. I use another word generally, but fastball right down the middle, and he hit it almost onto Williams Street in right field. So he knew what he did wrong. So what type of conversation do you have with your star when that happens, or do you?
No, I think it's a great question. In fact, I had the same conversation with Will Sanders. I mean, if you go through both of them, they both made really one poor pitch in their outing. And I'll tell you, I mean, I had a conversation a couple of days ago with Will. Obviously, Thomas and I talked multiple times. I've just told him this. There's two ways you can evaluate, yourself pitch to pitch. Did I have the right process every pitch, and was I 100% committed? If the answer is yes, great. Okay. The second part is if I maximize all those and one pitch doesn't go my way, I have to believe in myself enough to know that I did everything I could to execute. Because the fact of the matter is, there's so many pitches in a game that people don't realize. Just what if a guy doesn't foul a ball straight back? There's two runners on, it's 2 outs, let's just say. And that foul ball that no one ever remembers. What if the guy just gets the barrel a slight bit faster to it and hits a 3-run homer? Then everyone remembers. Well, what if the pitch was the exact same spot? What you did nothing different. The hitter just happened to get it in a different part of the bat, and then it goes from, hey, great pitch, or now it's a bad pitch. And so I just tell our guys, believe in what you're doing. Now, look, if you have 15 of them in a game, that's a problem.
Right.
But if 1, 2, 3 pitches that are, egregious misses for you, which obviously that happens in the big leagues too. I mean, nobody's perfect. But if you are committed to your pitches properly, then there's nothing negative to say. It's like I told Will Sanders even again this morning when we were just chit-chatting. Hey, man, you just keep throwing, your pitches the way you are. We're going to have a chance to win every game you pitch. And that's all that we ask. And if you have to obviously have stuff with that, but our guys do have stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the conversation. You can't let guys overstress on one pitch, because if they do, then they're going to try to change everything that goes into themselves, pitch to pitch, their prep and all that. And then it becomes a disaster. So that's what we don't want to have. We want them to just stay confident and committed to what it is that they're going to do.
When you brought Will Sanders into that, and I think that brings up something interesting. I was texting during his start last Sunday or Saturday or Friday. Oh my gosh, last Friday with Nick Godwin, who used to pitch at South Carolina, and as many do, but a former Friday night SEC guy was pointing out, dude, this kid, he has marbles. If you hit a rocket off of him. You hit one over the wall, you hit one back up the middle. It doesn't matter. If he misses a spot, he continues to attack, which means that he clearly trusts his stuff. And I think that I'm not putting your words in your mouth, Skylar, so correct me here if I say something incorrect. But at times this year, I maybe it's felt with Thomas Farr and even Brandon Jordan at times, and a couple other guys, if someone lights you up once or twice, I don't want to say it scares them, but I don't know that they trust what they're doing at least immediately after that happens. But that doesn't seem to be the case with Will Sanders. I mean, he had a rocket hit off of him, and he just right back at him. That, even though someone might hit you hard when that happens, as a freshman, I can only imagine as their leader, the pitching coach, that has got to bring the biggest joy to your face. This guy is fearless, and he attacks, and he trusts what comes out of his right hand.
Oh, there's no doubt about it, and I don't think that's any knock on anyone else. I think it's just very complimentary to him, and I totally agree. He just keeps coming at you. He stays in attack mode. It's like the coach from another SEC school said to me this morning on the phone. He's like, dude, that freshman, that kid just literally, you can't breathe. He's just down your throat. And so, I've been very happy with his ability to do that. And look, he's going to have losses in his career. That's just how it happens. It's inevitable, but I don't think it's going to be for fear. And obviously it's not going to be for lack of stuff, but that's what I've been happy about with, him and Mahoney alike. I mean, they absolutely attack you and don't let you breathe. And, anyone that's ever hit, that's a really bad feeling when pitchers are getting after you like that.
How about Mahoney? Obviously, he had a really good a great performance. Excuse me. I undersold him there against the Citadel, who, by the way, is a really solid offensive club. They've just had trouble on the mound this year. What has been the game plan with him, for lack of better words, over the last few weeks? I'd say with his starts, he's obviously earned he's earned it, being able to go deeper in ball games, 6 innings, 7 innings, almost 8 innings, the last couple of starts. If he's not throwing well, I know you're not going to leave him out there that long. So he's earned that, certainly, but also what is that like for you? Are you preparing him for the postseason, regional play? I mean, what are those conversations like in the office to try to get your team at its best when all of the marbles are on the table in late May?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, he certainly is a guy that we look at as a real starter. Of course, that's why he's throwing the amount of innings, increase in pitches that he does have. But I think there's a lot of options that we may have, come May and June, hopefully, with the way we utilize our staff. But at the same time, I think one thing that people may not even realize or look deep into. Sanders actually leads our team in appearances, but he only has 16. We don't have any other relievers with more than 14. We're the most, when I say underutilized, it's the most fresh bullpen that there is in college baseball. I mean, you can go through all these other teams, and the way they're having to use guys is totally different than what we've used, knock on wood, so far. And so my hope with that is that because guys haven't been overutilized, that we're going to continue to get better and better as this thing moves forward. And that's what those starts and him going deep in games, that's the secondary, positive that we feel is going to help us as May turns this weekend.
All right, Skylar, how about the Rebels? You mentioned offensively they're really good. They're really good everywhere. We know that, and they're really good at home. We've already discussed the atmosphere. Do you have a brief? I know you have one. How much of your scouting report are you willing to, not what you're basically doing, but your scouting report on them, can you share with us so we know what we'll see? For those who haven't seen much of Ole Miss yet this year, what are we watching for starting tomorrow night in Oxford?
Yeah, they're big and physical. They got a lot of, they kind of look like us in terms of just a bunch of big dudes. They're going to have a lot of left-handed hitters. They'll be like Arkansas. They're probably going to have, lefty in the, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe even 9. I mean, they'll run them out there. So, your guys are going to have to, be prepared for that. They play for the homer. They got 48 of them. They hit a lot of them at home. They don't really run a lot. Only 25 bags, but they have the least amount of bags in SEC play of anyone. So, that's not a big part of their game. I'm not saying that they won't run if you just have a mental slip, but that's certainly not their DNA. But they're very good. They're going to hit mistakes. They can get on the fastball, especially if they get leverage counts. And so, we're going to have to execute early. We're going to have to execute often, and our guys are going to have to be able to put pitches where they want repeatedly. And so, like I said, I think we weren't perfect, but we did a good job of that against Arkansas. And I think it's going to have to be a very similar approach to how we attack them this upcoming weekend.
All right, before I let you run, your squad right now ranked 13th in the country by D1 Baseball, an RPI of 10. Just a couple of the stats that are out there on the Gamecocks that we kind of monitor down the stretch. Certainly the overall record is really good at 26-12, 11-7 in the league. Yesterday, Kendall Rogers with D1 Baseball, Skylar, reported that the NCAA selection committee will now announce 20 possible regional host sites the week of May 10th. Doesn't say on May 10th, the week of May 10th, and will dwindle that number to 16 the night before selection Monday. This allows more teams to compete for host sites. Well, duh. If you ask me, good thing. So did you see that news, and what was your reaction to it?
Well, yes, I did see it. I thought, I mean, I don't understand many times right now the rush with a lot of things that are going on. because I just think it looks disjointed when you announce something. And I'm sure, like many people, myself included, you talk to your team about things, and then everything you told them, days ago is totally different now with them changing, which, by the way, is the right thing to do. There needs to be more teams. It should be who the 16 best, or who they deem the 16 best are, that are the, host teams. And obviously we hope that we have the opportunity to be one of them, but it just looks very disjointed. I don't understand how that happens. And you're a big organization with a lot of smart people in a room. I would think at some point patience and common sense would take over and say, hey, you know what? If we tell them the week of, conference tournament, or like normal, the weekend when conference tournament ends, what is any different than if we tell them on May 10th? So it always was a little odd from the start, and now just adding the teams and all that, it screams odd. But you know what? In the end, it doesn't change anything for what we need to do. So it really doesn't matter. We just need to play very well, here in house. But it's just odd. That would be my take on it.
Well, I agree. I mean, and you hit the nail on the head. If you win, none of this is going to matter for you specifically. None of it will matter. You're going to be a regional site, and guess what? Keep winning. You might be a top 8 and maybe a super regional host, and that's what we always hope for. As it pertains to the sport, Skylar, it is. Why the hell did I say that?
It's funny. And one of the things I typed Tyler a minute ago and erased it, and obviously typed Skylar. I don't know what it is.
Maybe it's because this gentleman who's been sending us some comments here. I'm not sure. Sorry about that, Skylar. But what you don't want to happen, just for the health of the sport, is somebody who qualifies as a top 16 and doesn't get to host. That's just not fair. I mean, unless there's some health guideline that says they can't for specific reasons, and they've got proof in that, and then, okay, there's nothing you can do about that. I get it. But, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know why the rush, and now they're having to backtrack and flip. And guess what? This probably won't be the last time they do this either. With that being said, Atlanta's open. LSU announced this morning they're 100%. They're open. I mean, everybody's open for business. I know that you're not in all these meetings with Coach Tanner and with local health officials. You got to get your pitching staff ready to go. But do you have a feeling one way or another that maybe there could be another change in attendance policy at Founders Park, which currently sits at max 50% capacity?
Yeah. Now, I was going to say, I think, and it's 50% of the actual seats is where we are at right now. I mean, I certainly hope so. I'm sure there's some potential in that maybe happening. But I mean, I certainly do not know, and obviously Coach Tanner and people that are in those positions are having meetings with way different people than I would certainly know. But I know they'll fight for us and do whatever is allowed, and it's funny. I had just right before you guys had checked in, I had seen the stuff on LSU as well. And so, look, we had the conversation a week or two ago about, what's going on with college baseball and outdoor sporting events. And I don't know why the NCAA would want to cap that. I know that's another issue going on with only saying 50%. And you look at Ole Miss, Miss State, they have 12,000 a game. And now you're going to tell them they can have 6 for NCAA tournament games. And the whole thing doesn't make a lot of sense, but we'll do whatever they tell us. And we know that Coach Tanner and, President Castlin and those people, they're going to fight for us and get us the most people we can in our park the rest of the way. And I hope it's more people, but if it's not, the place will still be juicing like it was last week when they let 1,400 more fans in there. So that was exciting for our players, exciting for us as coaches. And but if more can get in, more the merrier for sure.
No doubt about it. We'll just go beat them this weekend, and we won't have to worry about this stuff anymore. And then the Bulldogs of Mississippi State will come to town next weekend, which is always neat. Chris Lamonis, Scott Foxhall, they'll be back in the Palmetto State. 2 wonderful, wonderful human beings that are coaching that program over there. But first things first, take care of the Rebels over in Oxford, Mississippi. Skylar, safe travels. Y'all got a lot of them. And just so you know, my mother-in-law is in town, and I've already sent her to the grocery store for 1/4 pound Nathan's hot dogs tomorrow night. So we will be cooking out and in our best efforts to get you that Friday night win. Okay.
Yes, that like I told you in a text earlier, that is clearly the key to Friday night success. I know many people look at other things, but I know what matters, and clearly that one's 1 for 1. So we'll take those odds and hopefully get off started on the right foot this weekend.
Dude, it's the Hebrew National, not Nathan's.
But they don't. But Hebrew National makes those little peanut hot dogs. You got to get
they have the bun-sized dogs. I get them like multiple times a week.
Yeah, but they're bun-sized. I'm talking about the quarter-pound, big old.
Oh, okay.
Ones.
All right.
More meat in my mouth. Take that where you want to.
And the show has a title.
All right, man. Go get him, Skylar. Thank you for squeezing us in, brother. Sorry about my voice.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next week.
Get that voice right. Get that voice right for the weekend.
You got it, man. Thanks, bud.
Hey.
There you go, Skylar Meade, pitching coach of the Gamecocks. I don't know what else to do here. I'm trying. Maybe I need honey. They say honey can clear the throat.
Try bourbon.
Oh, I will. But that's for Saturday when I have my mint julep for Hot Rod Charlie as he runs in the race. All right, we got to hit a timeout. I went to DB's yesterday. My friends Josh and Jacob Claiborne met me over there. It was absolutely fantastic. Today's buy one, get one half off foot-long cheesesteaks at DB's Cheesesteaks. So make that your lunch place of choice or dinner or both. They deliver. Remember that. dbscheesesteaks.com for the entire menu. Cory McCartney, he's up next in Atlanta right here on the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every 2021 Tiguan, $3,500 off. Every 2021 Atlas, $5,300 off. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? Strike two! If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save $5,300 on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Spring is officially here, and there's no better place to bring it in than the Dog and Duck. 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Park West, Bell Hall, and Clements Ferry Road, all of them with gorgeous outdoor seating to take advantage of their daily food and drink specials. Through the end of April, $5 Sweetwater pints. Food specials like Taco Tuesday and the Game Day Burger every Wednesday. It's all available at Dog and Duck. There are 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and awesome.
All right, 12:34 Thursday afternoon. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Just a couple of days left in the month. It is beautiful here in the low country of South Carolina. Thanks to Skylar Meade, South Carolina's pitching coach, in that last segment. We do have David Cloninger coming up later, but first we take a quick flight to 100% full Atlanta, Georgia, and that's where we find Cory McCartney. Hey, man.
So, Jamie, we all go through voice changes at our own speed. So I just want you to know I'm here. We're here for you. We're supportive of as you go through these changes in your life.
It's yes. You know what this makes me feel like? Like I'm not sick. This makes me feel like Sundays in the fall. The day after coming home from Gamecock football games, I'm usually screaming and bitch about something on Saturday afternoon, and I can't talk Sunday. This is what it feels like. So
I understand. So I am waiting though tonight for you to cut some videos as Matt Rule, like kind of dropping the Panthers picks before they come out there. Do you think you could do an impersonation for us?
Matt Rule,
because the more stubble Matt Rule gets,
we look
like you. Yeah,
that's a good call. I've never put two and two together like that.
I saw Matt Rule on ESPN yesterday, and I thought, oh my God, he's starting to look like Jamie. So there you go.
That was actually me on ESPN. I've had Jeremy Piven. I've had a couple of I don't want to say older, but yeah, older ladies tell me I looked like a young Billy Joel.
Oh, there you go.
I don't know.
I don't know. Whatever. If I could throw 48 and left-handed, though, I could strike out Freddie Freeman. That's all I know.
There you go. Yeah, I thought Rizzo. He was pretty funny afterwards. He did not want to bat against his buddy Rizzo and got him at a 68-mile-an-hour curveball. So they talk all the time about Bobby Cox used to say these guys can time a jet. What they can't time is a Pinto. They can't time something that's going that slow. So got him.
Dude, that was what's crazy is everybody's talking about it, and a lot of folks forgot that he had 4 hits in the game until he struck out. That was, I calculated this morning, by the way, that was his 15th career game with at least 4 hits.
Nice.
Not bad, huh? But he's a long ways off. Ty Cobb's the all-time leader there. He's had 87 of those in his career.
What's the relationship with Rizzo and Freeman? Because it was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago when Rizzo was chasing him on the base paths and was screaming Frederick at him, and they're laughing on the base paths.
I think it's just from the All-Star games, right? I mean, they didn't grow up in the same area. So I think it's just from getting to know each other from All-Star games. Jason Hayward and Freddie are really tight, so I think he's always kind of had that in with the Cubs guys. So I think it's just kind of been a little bit of both those things, the Hayward connect and then just, hanging out as first baseman at the All-Star game.
Well, Freeman is getting hot at the right time. What is he? He has 6 or 7 hits in his last 3 games now, obviously 4 last night. So he's starting to, it seems, feel a little bit more comfortable here as we are about to get into May.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting to look a little bit more like, Freddie Freeman that we, saw last year during the MVP run, obviously having him at that spot in the order. Is to his benefit. We talked a little bit last week about how the batting average on balls in play just hasn't been in his favor, starting to tick up a little bit more, 219 now. And as you mentioned him, he's got 7 bombs on the year. His son, by the way, changed his, now I get to go through my own voice change apparently. But that's what you get, it's karma. But his son changed his walk-up music during this homestand. So now Bad Bunny is what he goes to the plate with. So
you're kidding me.
We'll see if that plays off. Yeah, Bad Bunny.
What was it before?
It was something. It was like, I can't remember what the name of the song was, but they played it on like a Microsoft commercial from years ago. So that was what I always thought of whenever I heard it. But he had the same music for a long time. I mean, I think back from, like one of his first couple seasons, he had the same music up until 2 days ago.
All right. So not last night, but the day before, I believe, or it might've been 2 days before, Dansby burned sage throughout Truist Park. Has he been doing that since?
I think it was just the one time that we've been told. If it continues, I don't know. I kind of go back to when they broke out the umbrellas. Mike Fultonevich did when Josh Donaldson would homer, and they would have the bringer of rain, and they would throw sunflower seeds and stuff on him. And the umbrella eventually had a Braves logo on it. I'm anticipating that there will very soon be some kind of logo on whatever sage Dansby uses, or it'll be some official sage partner of the Atlanta Braves, because they don't let opportunities like that slide.
That's brilliant. I mean, that is your marketing opportunity there. So instead of holding sage, it's like a Braves candlestick or something with the sage on top.
Yep. There you go. I'm sure someone's already making that happen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you better hope that everybody's got sage stuff in those candlesticks. And it's not something else that comes drifting through the ballpark these days. You never know. So it's been kind of a weird week, but now they've got the series finale tonight. with the Cubs. I think that one's actually on the MLB Network. I don't know. Maybe Dish will allow me to watch it, or I don't know. I mean, they don't really care.
Not if it's on MLB Network, it won't. No.
Blackout. Shocker. Yeah. But they have outscored Chicago 23-7 in the series. They're now even 12-12. Corey, I think that puts them tied for first, right? Which the Nationals are last. I just want to be clear about that. Okay. But it's April. We need to remember that. So the Nationals still have a great chance to fall even further behind as we
there's no panic for the Nationals. Their injuries piling up a little, but there's not panic there.
Never is. There used to be in last place. What over the last, I mean, we've talked, the offense obviously has been pretty good the last few games, but the staff, that's 2 shutouts in a row, man. What's going on with the pitching staff?
Well, apparently my dog's worked up about the pitching staff too, but right now, I mean, they got more home runs than anyone in baseball with 36. They're 23rd in starter ERA at 4.76. I mean, obviously we've seen back-to-back gems from Ian Anderson and Huascar Ynoa. Obviously homering last night in a 2-hit game for himself at the plate there. But, I think they're really hoping that they can get things sorted out from a pitching standpoint. Mike Soroka did start throwing 2 days ago. So the expectation that he'll go through some runs with the minor league season starting here. Maybe we see him by June, and then, we'll just wait and see whenever Max Fried can get back from that hamstring. But Drew Smiley's been really bad. He's going to be going in this next series here against the Blue Jays. They're going Bryce Wilson tonight. So see if they can get the starting staff sorted out. But certainly when you have 2 guys who have pitched as well, by and large, as Ian Anderson and Huascar Ynoa have over the last few weeks, and you're 23rd in the league in starter ERA, clearly something's not working right as a whole.
12:41 Thursday afternoon, Cory McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia. How's Acuna doing? I think I was just looking at it. He had a hit last night. He had a hit on Tuesday. But before that, it'd been a bunch of goose eggs. Is he battling through this? Is he healthy? Where's he stand?
Leads the National League in WAR right now. Vegas says he has the best odds in the National League to win MVP. Fernando Tatis's odds are double that of Acuna right now. So whatever is not working, you might want to put some money on it, because if things are going right the way they would before, this guy's going to go on another absolute tear. I mean, he's got 8 bombs right now, tied for the league lead. We talked about before the ability to the plate discipline is much improved with him. So I don't think you can conceivably have an over 500 weighted on base average through a long stretch here. I mean, this is literally, I went back and checked every full month that Acuna's been in the league. This is the best full month he's ever had. So wow. Even with a couple, games where he sat out with the abdominal strain, and then a couple where he hasn't, hit all that well. I mean, this has been peak Acuna for the last 29 days.
All right, what is obviously the Braves tonight? They're gonna sweep the Cubs, so that'll put a squash on that. What's been more surprising, the Cubs? They're in last place, or the Washington Nationals?
Oh, I think the Nationals, because I think Kyle Hendricks, has been, I think the last night, I don't really buy into this comp, but they called him like a bit of a modern day Maddox. The Cubs just don't have the pitching. I mean, they haven't had the pitching outside of the World Series run. They really haven't had, developed their own pitching at all. I think it was kind of a wait and see if they were going to kind of break up the band here of Rizzo, Baez, and Chris Bryant. So I think there was some debate whether or not they were going to be real contenders. I mean, obviously the Brewers had made some moves. The Cardinals had gone out and gotten Arenado. The Reds look like they could still, be viable. So I had a lot of doubts about the Cubs to begin with. So to me, the Nationals, I mean, where they're at right now, when you consider, I mean, they have one of this generation's best pitchers in Max Fried. They've got a guy in Juan Soto who's still, we talk about MVP odds, is still 3rd in the NL MVP odds. So I think I've been more surprised with the performance of the Nationals thus far.
In a negative way or a positive way in the performance for the Nationals?
Oh, negative. I mean, I don't think I would have expected that they'd be sitting where they are right now at, 3 games below 500. Now, the one benefit for them is they're a game and a half out of first place.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to get worked up about anything in that division right now. I mean, you think about the AL East where there's a 5.5 game deficit. The Tigers are 7.5 back in the Central. The Rockies are 6.5 back in the West. One series, and you're automatically back in this thing if you're the Nationals. So it's hard to get too worked up about anything right now.
Absolutely.
Any concern with Strasburg, though, and the injuries with the Nationals of not being able to, I don't know, have a full healthy team? Almost lost Trey Turner a little bit ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we talked about that with Strasburg, all except for 1-2 seasons in his career so far. I mean, it's just been that's always been kind of part of the deal with him. I mean, the best season he had, obviously, healthiest season he's had since they shut him down that rookie year. He won a World Series and he was the World Series MVP. So, when you can still take Corbin, Strasburg, and Scherzer and put them out there in some way, shape, or form, and know that even if you get 20 starts out of Strasburg this year, I mean he's still a top 20 pitcher in the league. So I think you take what you can get from him and just hope that you can pick up enough from the other guys and make up that Nationals rotation. But again, they're still right in the thick of this. They still have Soto, they still have Turner. I think Josh Bell and Schwarber are going to find their way eventually. I think this is still a really dangerous Nationals team.
And keep in mind, and we can move on because no one wants to talk Nationals like I do. Ryan Zimmerman's playing like he's 28 years old also. So that's also a benefit.
It's a good point. Dude's been in the league since 1930.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how long he's
first
been around.
Nationals draft pick.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but Corey's right. I mean, it is the closest division. Last night, we saw Jacob deGrom take his second loss of the year by giving up one run. One run. Someone explain to me how you can have a .51 earned run average and be 2-2 after your first 5 starts. It just doesn't make any sense. How is this a problem again in New York where they cannot score runs for this guy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's to the point with him where, as much as we've kind of gone into a mode where wins don't necessarily define a pitcher anymore, ultimately, if your team can't win the starts that you make and you perform that well, then wins ultimately do have some, say into how the season plays out, regardless of how sensational Jacob deGrom's individual numbers want to be. I mean, the guy's at over 2.5 WAR right now. He's striking out almost 14 per 9. He's been unreal. I mean, it's a 2.38 ERA. I mean, this is as good as he's been. This is the best, arguably, we've ever seen him. And you don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but he's been. I mean, I was actually talking to my kids about this the other day. For a long time, I thought Clayton Kershaw was the best pitcher of this generation. And I think these past 4 years, it's shifted more to deGrom because he's gotten better with age. And they're not that far off in age. And Kershaw's been hanging on, but he's not been as dominant as he was. I mean, this is the guy right now. And the fact that his team isn't backing him up, who knows what their division lead could look like if they could come through. In those amount of starts that he makes to be able to actually back him up with something stronger.
Where is he in his contract? Do you know?
I believe he has 2 more years. So there was talk of 1 more year. So there was talk about whether they would, because if he's been one where he says once the season starts, we're not talking about extension. So they're going to probably have to get something done, this winter or next spring with him.
You think they will? Or do you think deGrom will look to get out of there? What language is in his contract?
So he signed a 5-year he has a club option for 2024, but he can opt out after 2022. So
okay.
Obviously, he's going to want to opt out after 22. That way, whether he gets more money from the Mets or, he's able to go out into the open market. But I would assume that was 5 years for 147.5 that they had signed back in 2019. So, I would assume we're going to be talking about next year whether or not they can get something done with him.
That'll be Darren. What did you say the other day? Because I was wrong. He is how old? 30 what?
I believe 33. I think the second oldest guy on that Mets roster, which
that is interesting.
Team right.
Yeah, he's 30. He's 32. So he'll be 33 in June.
But Corey, that puts him
Yeah.
at a really interesting age after next year because he'll be 33 or 34 years old. He doesn't have 10 years left in the big league. So I think when people look at his, when they look at his performance, they look at what he's done over the last 4 plus years in baseball, and they go, dude, this guy is a year away from getting paid, which could be true, but also not one of these big mega $400 million 10-year deals. I mean, he doesn't have that left.
No, he doesn't. And I apologize. I was wrong. I was actually looking at his 2020 ERA was 2.38. It's at 0.51 right now. But you go back to 2017, and he was a 3.53 ERA pitcher at age 30. He made 32 starts that year. The next year he's at 2.43. The year after that he's at 2.38, and now he's at 0.51. So you think about opting out of that contract at in 22 at age 34. And how long, can you go more than 3-4 years with him? Because we've seen sometimes, but the one thing I will say about him, and I thought this was stunning, his slider, mile per hour on his slider right now is what his fastball was when he came into the league. 94.5 was what his average fastball velocity was in 2014 during his rookie year. That's now his slider. So that's how much better this guy's gotten. You feel like the stuff is good enough, but it's like, are you going to buy into him at 40? I don't know. I think it's going to be really compelling to see. Is it basically just a redo of a little heightened? Does he get another 5-year deal? I think it's going to be really interesting to watch.
The Yankees love these guys. They'll sign him to like $150 million deal for 3 years, 4 years, and he'll be done.
I don't think Steve Cohen lets that happen.
Really?
I think you've got a guy with bottomless pockets who loves the Mets. The last thing I think he's going to want is to see a guy who's been a Mets lifer, who's going to end up in Cooperstown in a Mets hat, go to the other side of New York and get anything done. Considering what they gave Lindor, I'd be stunned if he doesn't end up being a Met for life.
All right, in the American League, what is more surprising? This is the positive side of things. What has been more surprising to you, the Royals, the Red Sox? Red Sox 16-9, leading the AL East. The Royals are leading the Central at 15-8.
Yeah, I think the Royals. To me, because when you started doing the pecking order of teams in the American League Central this winter, you could have conceivably had the Royals third or fourth. The White Sox were by and large the class of that division. You obviously had you could make a case that the Twins, because they had such a great offense and that they had gone out and gotten, Kenta Maeda, and they were going to be better from a pitching standpoint. Barrios was a year older. They're below 500 right now. They're 7 games back, and Dayton Moore, and I think we always look at the Royals and think that they have windows, right? And they get up, they're going to make their guys, they're going to bring them up, they're going to develop them, and then they're going to let them go because that's just the way they do things. But Dayton Moore was really aggressive this past offseason. Obviously he goes out and makes some moves, and brings in Andrew Benintendi. He just made moves that weren't necessarily Hunter Dozier, that weren't kind of the moves that a team that's in the typical spot the Royals are in makes, and they're in first place. I think there were talk last year whether or not they were going to trade Whit Merrifield. They didn't do that. I think this has been I think you can argue this has been the biggest surprise in baseball, because this is a team that we just always watch their young guys progress, and then we watch them go off to somewhere else. Moustakas, obviously Hosmer. We watch those guys move on. They locked up Salvador Perez. They bring in pieces around them. This has been a really fantastic story, and I hope it's one that has legs.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. Of course, it's a Gamecock. Whit Merrifield. Should have known. If you would have traded Whit Merrifield, they'd be like 4-20 or something like that. But they didn't. Yeah, I agree. We talked about that top 2 of the order 2 or 3 weeks ago. Merrifield and Benintendi, and Benintendi hadn't really gotten going yet. Whit's been pretty good throughout this year. But the Red Sox story is good. This is. Like when you look at it, you go, okay, 366 team earned run average. Bogart's been really good. JD Martinez has been really good. The middle of that order is pretty solid, but it's been something like a little bit different here and there. The last 3 games they've won with pitching. Then there's games where they just outslug you. I think it's really interesting to watch, because didn't everybody kind of have the Yankees pegged as winning the division? What the Rays did last year. Nobody even talked about the Red Sox.
No, because obviously they had seemed like they were in sell mode, and then certainly the sale issue. This is still. I think it needs to be said. This is still collectively the worst pitching staff in baseball. True. They together have a -0. They're the only team in baseball with a collective bullpen and starters a negative WAR right now. Below the Diamondbacks, who just allowed 1 run in 14 innings to the Braves on Sunday. So tells you what that means. But I don't think we thought the Red Sox were going to be able to pitch at all this year. No. And Nathan Eovaldi, he's not been. They've been good, not spectacular, but it's been good enough when you're producing like they are offensively.
Yeah, raise your hands if you. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could. If you thought the Red Sox would have 20 wins before the, Dodgers. They have the same record right now. We'll see. But this might make Boston buyers at the trade deadline coming up in a couple of months, Cory, as we get through the first half of the season. If they're knocking on the door, I don't know if they'll still be in first or not, but the Red Sox, they have cash, right? I mean, if they want to go get somebody, they can do it and firm up that staff.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still paying Chris Sale money, right? I mean, they'll get some insurance back from that. That's kind of the way that you're able to work that out when a guy's injured for the amount of time that he is. But I don't know. I mean, I think it would be interesting. It's like where do they? How much of an investment do they want to make? Because I think there's still a team that's hoping to get more younger guys, like the Alex Verdugos, via their own moves and be able to kind of take advantage of those and watch guys progress. So it's going to be fascinating because I just don't think they have enough pitching. But we'll see if they're one of the teams that's willing to go out and pay the price for it.
How about the Blue Jays? I hadn't seen them much this year other than some highlights until the Nationals just played them down in Dunedin. First of all, are they playing the whole year in Dunedin? Because balls just fly out of that park. And second of all, I mean, we talk young talent all the time, but we don't talk about the Blue Jays enough. Those guys are fun to watch, man.
They are. And Vlad Guerrero Jr., I mean, has been on absolute fire of late. So, they've got the Braves coming up after this Cubs series. So that's gonna be a blast. I mean, he's hit had 3 homers a couple nights ago. I mean, he's fantastic. I mean, obviously they've got such a great young core there. The pitching's been much improved at the moves that they've gone out and made. So yeah, I think that's the team that, we wondered how long it was going to take before they were able to kind of come together as a group and gel. They've always had, they go out and get George Springer. Obviously, there's a lot of fun guys on that team. So I think that's going to be a great matchup against the Braves because you're talking about just some of the great young talent in baseball.
George Springer, the great UConn Husky. I saw him play in college, as a matter of fact, and in super regional at one point in time. You mentioned Chris Sale money and an insurance policy. Did the Braves have an insurance policy on Mike Hampton, or are they still paying him?
I don't think they're still paying him. I think they're still paying Bruce Sutter though. That's almost over with.
Well, sooner than later, I guess, right? It's like Bobby Bonilla. Bobby Bonilla. Who's got a better deal? Bobby Bonilla or Allen Iverson? Isn't it Allen Iverson that gets $35 million when he turns 50?
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, so sales do $30 million this year. So I mean, and you think about how much of that are they going to get back from that? But that's not going to go into this year. You're not going to take the money that you get from insurance from that contract this year and put it back into your payroll. So I mean, when you're paying that much money, I just don't know that they're going to be overly aggressive.
That is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Being a fired college football coach or a injured baseball player is the best job in the world. All right, man. We're going to let you run on that note. Any thoughts on who might get drafted number 1 overall tonight?
I'll tell you what, if it's not Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to be absolutely stunned. I mean, I get the Justin Fields Urban Meyer connection. No,
it's not happening.
That's going to bite you. That's going to bite you hard if you're Urban Meyer and you pass on Trevor Lawrence.
If that happens, some people are going to lose a ton of money, and someone who is insane and put money on Fields is going to win a ton of cash if that happens. It's not going to happen.
Yep. No.
And you'll also be picking up the pieces in Atlanta from the earthquake that happens in the northwestern corner of South Carolina, because Clemson fans would be losing their lunch if that happened.
Well, I'm 10 miles from Trevor Lawrence's hometown. So, I mean, I'm imagining there are going to be some tremors there too. And Justin Fields too. I'm actually in the middle between where Lawrence is from and where Fields is from. So
they should have a joint watch party. I know Trevor's not.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know if Fields is going or not.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Dropped the ball in this, Cory. You should have way more information on that.
I guess. We have Twin Peaks. There's a Twin Peaks restaurant between them, so we could have used that.
How perfect is that? They're the Twin Peaks of quarterbacks at Twin. God, I like it.
All right, man. Have a great weekend. Baseball, the Derby, the draft. It's a great sports weekend. So enjoy all that. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
There you go. Cory McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia. Really good stuff as always with him. And if you want to know how to get Freddie Freeman out, put a left-handed first baseman on the bump who throws about 40, and bam, you got it. All right, we got to hit a timeout. When we return, we will get into the draft. We've also got some news from SEC Media Days. David Cloninger's ahead as well. The name, image, and likeness bill in South Carolina. We're going to discuss that. So hang tight. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 on the way right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Mike Morgan here for Gamecock Traditions. Baseball is going strong. You'll want to look sharp when you cheer on your Gamecocks. Under Armour, New Era, sideline hats, all with interlocking SC Baseball logo. 18 styles of $10 tees exclusively at Gamecock Traditions. Get on that email list by going to the bottom of the page, enter your email, and always be the first to know about new items as they arrive. You can also add a little Gamecock flair with house signs, garden flags, interior and yard decorations, only at one place, Gamecock Traditions.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston, Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Lowcountry. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
Show. Live, loud, and online.
All right. Final hour on this Thursday afternoon. Oh, that was
you can make it.
Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. JB and Darren here until 2 o'clock this afternoon. Follow us across social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is also our text line, and you can pop right into that if you'd like to be a part of our program. David Cloninger will be at 1:30 this afternoon. Cory McCartney and Skylar Meade already have been. So we would certainly appreciate that. Any chat room that's available at your disposal. Send us a message, and we'll plug you right into the program. Haven't heard from our boy Tom today.
No.
So Tom, if you're watching or listening, give us the goods, my friend. And I want to make sure that I totally disagreed with what he was saying yesterday. That conversation, we're not getting back into this, turned into whether Luke Doty is good or not. Well,
it didn't really. He tried to say, like,
that's where he was going.
Conversation is right, but that's not what the conversation.
No, that's right. That's where he was going with it. Like, we'll define the term good. No. It was about whether people should or shouldn't, or whether it's fair for them to second guess the coaches who watch these guys practice every day. That my whole point is, I don't know if Luke Doty is going to be good or not this year. I hope he is, but he might not be. But at least at this point in time, I'm trusting the coaches. They just saw him every day in practice. They've seen him every day since January. I think they know more than me. So I can't look at a spring game and see 7 passes thrown and say, well, Luke Doty shouldn't be the starting quarterback. I think that's not a fair assessment of that.
No, but it is fair to second guess coaches, and it's fair to second guess them right now today. It's just a matter of how you voice that. I mean, are you going to say, well, I mean, is it going to come from a windfall of negativity and start putting people down and saying, I know more than this guy? Second guessing can be very generic and easy. And just like, I don't know if this guy's, forget Doty, just anything in general, right? I mean, I don't know if Thomas Farr is the best guy to throw out there on a Friday night. I don't know. It's easy to second guess anything. It's just a matter of how you go about your business of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you got a right to second guess anything. I mean, there's certainly people in this country don't want you to have that, but you have a right to second guess anything. I'm just stating my personal opinion based on the information I have, which is they've watched this guy every day. I've been a coach before. When you watch a group every day, you generally know who's best, and then you let them work yourself out. And Shane Beamer never said that he's absolutely going to be the guy throughout the entire fall. What he said was, Luke Doty's a starting quarterback right now, basically exiting spring practice. He's still going to get into the fall. He's still got to compete again. I mean, there's a lot that can still happen. I just don't think nobody's seen anything outside of a few throws in the spring game. So my personal opinion with that is maybe those coaches know a little bit more than we do.
So Tyler just referenced, was it Tyler? Yeah, it was Tyler who said he loved Jason Brown's tweet yesterday. So I didn't see it, but it's not hard to pull it up. It's a picture of Brown, noticeably taller than Doty, with their backs to us. So you see number 15 and you see number 4. They're standing next to each other. And the only words in the tweet, this was almost 24 hours ago, the only word in the tweet was brother with a heart.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it'll all work itself out. I got other things to complain about in April, and Carolina's starting quarterback against Southern Illinois. We'll complain about that later. Maybe if somebody starts and isn't any good or something, we can worry about that in August. Again, David Cloninger is coming up here in just a little while, so looking forward certainly to speaking with him. Another reminder, it is Thursday, so if you're in the Low Country, buy one get one half off foot-long cheesesteaks at DB's Cheesesteaks, where I ate yesterday, and I did not forget the boardwalk fries, and I ate every damn one of them, and I would suggest that you do that as well. Real quick, some news from the SEC Media Days.
From where?
Media. Monday, July 19th, SEC Media Days will kick off in Birmingham, Alabama. No more of this virtual crap. And Dan Mullen, Ed Orgeron, and Shane Beamer will be the first 3 coaches to the podium per the release this morning. Last night. It will conclude on Thursday. Kirby Smart, Mark Stoops, Lane Kiffin, Josh Heupel on Tuesday. Saban, Leach, Jimbo, and Clark Lee from Vandy on Wednesday. And Arkansas's Sam Pittman, Brian Harsin at Auburn, and Eli Drinkwitz at Mizzou on Thursday. So that is the SEC Media Days coaches schedule. What players are going, we don't know. We won't know that till probably a couple weeks or a few weeks before they decide to head over that way. Again, if you want to be a part of our conversation, send us a text at 843-321-8893, or also get into any available chat room and hop right in with us here on the JB and Goldwater show. All right, so it is draft day. Let's go down this list real quick again. We did yesterday. These are ranked players from the Palmetto State, okay, that I have here. And I know Darren has a couple of resumes that he'll pop on throughout the screen. If you're watching, you'll be able to see this. If you're not, we'll explain to you what's going on. But Trevor Lawrence, of course, expected to go number 1 overall tonight. He is also the top-ranked QB. Darren, Colin Hill from South Carolina, the 19th ranked quarterback going into the draft. At running back, Travis Etienne, the 2nd ranked tailback in the NFL draft this year, behind Alabama's Najee Harris. Coastal Carolina's CJ Marable is the 27th ranked running back in that group as well. At wideout, Amari Rogers at Clemson's the 11th ranked wide receiver. Shi Smith from South Carolina, the 18th ranked wide receiver, and Cornell Powell from Clemson, the 29th ranked wideout. Jackson Carman, the 13th ranked offensive tackle from Clemson. Sedarius Hutcherson from Carolina, the 17th ranked offensive guard. Taron Jackson, the 22nd ranked defensive end out of Coastal Carolina, repping the Chanticleers. Ernest Jones, a linebacker from South Carolina, the 4th ranked linebacker in the draft. And at corner, just 2 from the state, both from the Garnet and Black side of things. J.C. Horn is the top ranked corner in the draft, and Izzy McCwamu is the 26th ranked corner in the draft. So let's start with J.C. Horn. We'll kind of work our way around. We have plenty to get to with the quarterbacks. Of course, Trevor Lawrence, though, expected to be number 1 overall, Darren. Here's a kid who, and we'll talk to DC about some of this too, but if you go back to the beginning of the 2020 season, there wasn't a lot of hype nationally around J.C. Horn, right? And you and I had a lot of these conversations with our guests. We had them amongst ourselves. All of the hype was, if you're watching this show, to the guy on the left of the screen. That's Izzy McCwamu. And really that hype kicked in. I'm not taking anything away from Izzy McCwamu, but that all kicked in after he picked off the Georgia Bulldogs 3 times in 2019 when Carolina upset them in Athens, Georgia. But J.C. Horn had not had that game. And quite frankly, didn't have what you would call first-round stats, right? He didn't have a pick to his name until he got those 2 in the Auburn game this year, and that's when he started to flash on the screen because it was against Seth Williams. It was against a ranked Auburn team, and all of a sudden people started paying attention outside of people in this state and going, oh, well, okay, it makes sense now. J.C. Horn doesn't have a bunch of picks because nobody's thrown to him for the last 2 years. Literally, they didn't target him. Don't believe me? You can go look at the stats yourself. Will Muschamp said as much last year. People were like, well, maybe that's true. They started thumbing through and going, yeah, nobody targets J.C. Horn. And they really didn't. But now he's a guy, Darren, J.C. is, who could, believe it or not, be a top 10 pick tonight. And he wasn't even considered a first-round guy by the analysts coming into last season.
Horn not only could be a top 10, there is a chance. This isn't the most likely scenario. There's a chance he's the top defensive player taken off the board. Right. Earlier today, I want to say it was on Get Up, but I'm not certain. It was an ESPN property because it was Louis Riddick who said it. And I've said many times, and I tweeted this out after I saw it this morning, I've said it many times. There are few, if any, talent evaluators of the NFL that I respect more their opinions than that of Louis Riddick, who used to be in NFL front offices and now is on Monday Night Football, and he's better than what he is being used for because of, the mind he's got to break down film, talent, scheme, all of it. In his mind, Horn is a better defensive back than Patrick Surtain. And those are the two, depending on which ranking list you look at. It's J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain. And you can flip them, whatever. It's the two of them. According to Riddick, Horn's the better cover corner of the two. And he is better in man coverage of the two. So that's another, I guess, resume point, if you want to say that, to boost J.C. Horn's stock.
J.C. was asked about Patrick Surtain, and he basically said as much. He said that they're different they're a little bit different, but there were a couple things that actually separate him from Alabama's Patrick Surtain. Those are the two corners that largely are projected as the best in this class. I guess you could throw in the Farley kid, right? At Virginia Tech, but those two.
I mean, if you're talking the top two defensive backs, it is zero question. It's Surtain and it's Horn, and it's just which one you like the best. That's it.
Who goes first? Horn. I think he got one more 225 bench press in there. I think he actually mentioned that he thought he was a more physical corner than Patrick Surtain. Craig actually just sent us a message and said JC was targeted something like 100 to 1,400 plays in his career. That's true. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's somewhere right in there. You do the math. It's unbelievable. I mean, he was literally targeted like 6% of the plays that he played or something ridiculous. And of those 100 over a 3-year span, like maybe 25 or 30 of them were completed. I mean, it is a ridiculous number. And obviously he's got NFL roots. I mean, his dad was Joe Horn, who played forever in the league at wide receiver. Might have taught him something, by the way. That'd be an interesting backyard little matchup there. So he will be a first rounder. He'll be the 15th in Gamecock football history tonight. Where he goes, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where he goes. It's interesting. Like I think that some feel like he might end up in Philly. There's some who feel like he might end up in Dallas. There's some who think he might end up in Arizona. I think that would be at 16. Darren, I don't know where he goes, but I tell you what, I'd like to see him in Philly. I think he would, his personality, I think would fit in really well up there. I think it's neat.
Well, here's what's funny. There are so many of these mock drafts out there. I don't get into where people are going to go because you have no idea. And I'm not going to sit here and say I have any sense, even in the realm of like a Kuiper or McShay or anything like that. And I laughed. I was by myself in the car yesterday and laughed out loud when I heard a local mock draft, a local person had put together a mock draft. I mean, I cracked up. I was like, well, I think I even tweeted, like, there's nothing more mock than a local mock because fine.
What do you know?
I can go anywhere and take a pick. And I mean, maybe Chris Sims's mock draft is a little bit more mock than that. But other than that, I don't know where he's going to go. It could be, Denver is a possibility. Philly, I guess, is a possibility. But the important thing right now, at least if you're any one of these guys waiting to hear your name called, you just want to hear your name called, man. This is a dream come true. You've worked however old you are, you've worked that many years for tonight, for tomorrow night, for the future. And that's the cool part of the NFL draft. I mean, it's a dream come true. Whether or not you pan out, whether or not you become, we can do a buy or sell thing tomorrow. Right. Is he going to pan out? Who knows? But it's a lifelong dream come true. And if you manage it all right, it's generational wealth also. So that's the cool part.
What do you make of this? I'm going to call it an ordeal, but it's been like this. I don't know, of all the years that I've been around the NFL draft, which is, I don't know, 35. So, I mean, for at least 20 years that I can remember, a lot of it. I don't know that I've ever seen as much chaos around the 3rd overall pick. I look, the way that I see this is, if the 49ers are really in that type of a bind where do we go with Lance? Do we go with Mac Jones? Do we go with whatever? Then that means they're probably all pretty good. And who really cares?
There doesn't seem to be a ton that separates them. And that's a very recent change to the thinking for a lot of these experts thinking. I mean, it's been Mac Jones to the Niners for a while, especially ever since that trade happened. It was they moved up to get Mac Jones. Then there were a couple of people who said, well, I'm not sure, but all of that talk ended. And it was the 49ers want Mac Jones. And only very recently has North Dakota State's Lance come into this conversation. If they go Lance, I think it's more of a developmental project. He hasn't played 20 collegiate games at North Dakota State, mind you. He has not even played 20 collegiate games. So I think it's more of a developmental thing. Let him learn under Garoppolo. If you go Mac Jones, I think there's a chance Jones plays sooner than Trey Lance. But I think the big thing here is if Mac Jones is still on the board, that seems to be like a hell of a fit in New England, right? I've seen Jones falling all the way down to Washington, which I'm all in for. There's no way he's going to fall that far. But Mac Jones in New England, if that doesn't scare the daylights out of every other fan base, I don't know what you're thinking.
Really? Yeah, I think the latest mock draft by Todd McShay actually has him going to New England at 15, right in front of J.C. Horn to Arizona at 16. I actually personally don't think Horn falls to 16, and I don't think Mac Jones falls to 15. I really don't. I just don't. I mean, how? I don't get that. You know what I mean? Like those two guys, if they're really projected to be like that. Matter of fact, at 12, the Eagles, based on the latest mock draft from Todd McShay, are projected to take Devontae Smith. How on planet Earth would Devontae Smith fall to 12, Darren? I don't see it.
Well, see, that's not too far of a fall. I mean, that's the 12th pick in the NFL draft. That's fine. There are enough questions about Smith, which, right or wrong, he seemed to prove everybody wrong throughout the year.
I don't think there's any question about Devontae Smith. Anybody see the kid play?
Well, yeah.
He's the best wide receiver we've seen in name how long.
Well, he was great this year. There's no doubt he was great this year. And it's not like he shrunk prior to the combine. It's not like he shrunk prior to the pro days and all these measurements coming out. Oh, man, he's too skinny. He's too small. Is he going to be able to succeed? Well, I mean, he was this size this year, right? And he had success in the SEC when everybody knew that the ball was coming to him. So the talent evaluators know how good he is, but is he going to go off the board higher than Kyle Pitts? No. Is he going to be the first receiver taken? Maybe. He's in that group of guys who could be the first receiver taken. So number 12 to me, okay. I mean, you're still the 12th pick in the NFL draft. That's not falling too far if you're Devontae Smith, because you're not going 1, 2, 3, 4. You know that right now. So it's only 8 picks away.
Yeah, the SEC puts a ton of fantastic receivers in the draft. If you, in my very uneducated NFL draft opinion, just because I've seen this kid play, and I've seen all these other guys play too. If McShay's mock draft is, let's say it's spot on, and the Bengals at 5 take Jamar Chase out of LSU, and the Dolphins at 6 take Jalen Waddle out of Alabama, those are not bad picks. I'm not saying that. They're unbelievable players. They're going to be around a long time. But I think that is idiotic over what we just saw Devontae Smith do. You could be great or you could be elite with Devontae Smith. And I don't know that the Panthers at 8, I know that they probably want to make sure that, I mean, you traded for Darnold. You need to protect him. I get it. If you feel like you need somebody up front, okay, I get that. That's just a football thing. I understand that. This isn't a draft analysis because I'm not a draft expert. But if you feel good enough up front, there's no way you let Devontae Smith go past 8 if you're Carolina. And he's still on the board, my God, you take him.
So Chase is an awesome wide receiver. Waddle is a great wide receiver as well, who's more along the size range of Devontae Smith. They're not that far apart in terms of size and poundage, I guess, if you will.
Right,
they're very, very similar right there. The Bengals with Jamar from LSU make sense to me because Burrow's your quarterback. There's already a relationship there. So, and if you think through the history of the NFL, how many, I'm not saying you're not going to be a great receiver. How many 5'9", 5'8" guys have been superstar receivers? Not a ton. There aren't too many short guys as a receiver that become absolute, I mean, like NFL MVP, Super Bowl MVP type of guy. And if you're picking top 5, top 10, that's your goal. You're not looking for a guy who's going to have a good career. You're looking for greatness. All of these guys can possess it. It's just what's going to fit better in your system to make that greatness. And then if you're right or wrong, then you got to wait a couple years.
Well, to be clear, you're not saying Devontae Smith's 5'9", right?
I'm just saying he's not one of the taller guys. Waddle, I think, is 5'8" or 5'9".
Yeah, Smith is 6'1".
Right, and Waddle's like 5'9".
He's a little. I don't know if he's 5'9".
He's 5'9". He might be 5'8".
Okay, let me. I can give
He's
you.
Right, he's right there.
I can give you an exact. 5'9.5". Yeah, 5'9.5".
Okay.
Well, we'll see where it all goes. It's just for Clemson. This would be really neat to get their first ever top 3 draft pick. Obviously, it's going to be number 1. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence. I think you and I never got much into it. I think there was way too much made of those comments that were in Sports Illustrated. Somebody literally turned water into oil. I thought that was a disaster. I have no idea. The only reason that even happened is because it's the NFL draft. Everybody likes to pick these little things. I mean, you hear about a lot of these crazy questions that are asked in some of these interviews. There was a story about a guy, Darren, I don't know if you saw it, and I can't even remember who it was, who at one point in time dropped in the draft because he, in an interview, when they asked him what his hobbies were, he explained his love for cooking, and they thought that would take away from his commitment to the NFL. It was a baffling story, but a true one nonetheless. And this, just so everybody knows, was not an interview that Trevor Lawrence did with any NFL front of office. This was a Sports Illustrated story, and I thought there was way too much made of that. That should have never even been a topic. I don't even know why it was. I guess it was for TV. I don't know.
And then it became, not only was it a topic, it became enough that he felt it necessary to respond. And the only thing was people saying, well, responding to Trevor saying, I don't have a chip on my shoulder, and getting the sense that Lawrence didn't have enough love for the game and passion for the game because he doesn't want to go out there and it's not his job to prove everybody wrong. Well, let me tell you something. If you've been following Trevor Lawrence, and if you've been reading the likes of Grace Rayner throughout the years, and there is an awesome thread of Grace's from The Athletic today with multiple stories she's written covering Trevor Lawrence throughout the years. This guy, you don't need a chip on your shoulder. He's a generational talent. And so he doesn't have the mindset of, I hate everybody else and I'm out to prove everybody wrong and watch me do what I do. Who cares, man? He obviously loves football. He's obviously pretty damn good at football. And this is going to be his first and foremost passion because it's his job. And then after that, let him go do whatever he wants to do. And he's not playing football. That's fine. You don't need to be this, I got to prove everyone wrong type attitude because, that can also add more pressure right on top of you. It's unnecessary for a lot of guys.
What will this mean to the league? What will we see come fall when we have Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, Florida? I'm anxious to see what they do. We all know that they're taking Trevor Lawrence. I want to see what they do after Trevor Lawrence in the draft.
I am curious for the whole storyline is intriguing. I mean, number one, the only quality professional quarterback that Urban Meyer coached in college was Alex Smith. There isn't another quarterback in the Urban Meyer coaching tree that was a good NFL quarterback.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, can Urban Meyer coach in the NFL? I have no idea. And how long is he going to wait? What's his patience level like in Jacksonville? So the whole thing is fascinating. And that's going to be one of the top rating grabs in the NFL in a Jacksonville market. It's good for the league that a smaller market like that is going to be such a ratings grab.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be really interesting to see. Again, I want to see what happens with the Jags in the rest of the draft because, again, we know who's going one. They also have the 25th pick in the first round tonight, Darren. And then when you get into the second round, they have the first pick again. The Jaguars do. They've got the first pick again in the second round and the 13th pick in the second round, so the 45th overall. So they're going to have 4 picks. The Jacksonville Jaguars will within the first 45 selections, obviously, unless they trade something around. And so we'll see what they add. We'll see what they add to that. Maybe they take a wide receiver if there's one left. One of the top dogs left. Maybe Shi Smith ends up in Jacksonville, a kid who's climbed up the boards and a lot of folks. He's the 18th ranked wide receiver. Maybe Amari Rodgers ends up in Jacksonville, and Amari Rodgers and Trevor Lawrence continue to hook up from Clemson. Who knows? I am projecting this based on the little information that I know, but I've gone over essentially everything I could go over when it comes to mock drafts and things of that nature over the last few weeks. And just reading the tea leaves, I think there will be 5 Clemson Tigers and I think there will be 5 South Carolina Gamecocks selected in this year's draft. I do think there will be 5 from both programs, and I think both will have a first-round draft pick. I'll be interested to see if Travis Etienne could sneak in there for the Tigers, maybe late. Who knows? If not, there's no way he goes past round number 2, certainly.
No. These resumes we've been popping up brought to you by Post Up Careers and a friend of the show and a friend of Gamecocks, Franklin Buchanan. If you're thinking of a change or taking that next step in your current career and you're struggling kind of putting that story down on your resume because it's impossible to write resumes. That's what he does. That's what he does best. Reach out to Franklin at Post Up Careers. He's been helping job seekers tell stories through resume writing, LinkedIn optimization, stuff like that. You can find Post Up Careers on social media. Just Google them. They're all over. You can also see it in the tweets that we've been sending out about this segment. That's Post Up Careers.
Franklin's a really good guy, too. So I hope anybody that needs that service, you can trust him. I can certainly assure you that. All right, we need to hit a timeout. When we return, though, David Cloninger with the Post and Courier, a little bit more on J.C. Horn. We'll talk some of this NIL bill as well, and we'll get into some Gamecock baseball to wrap up our Thursday afternoon here on the JV and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every 2021 Tiguan, $3,500 off. Every 2021 Atlas, $5,300 off. Every new Volkswagen available with 0 down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? Strike 2! If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, car lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save $5,300 on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per 1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with 0 down. Plus tax. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes Dub.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Spring is officially here, and there's no better place to bring it in than the Dog and Duck. 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Park West, Bell Hall, and Clements Ferry Road, all of them with gorgeous outdoor seating to take advantage of their daily food and drink specials. Through the end of April, $5 Sweetwater pints. Food specials like Taco Tuesday and the Game Day Burger every Wednesday. It's all available at Dog and Duck. There are 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, but whenever I want to keep up with the South Carolina Gamecocks or even the Clemson Tigers, I can still tune in to JB and Goldwater because they are always live, loud, and online.
And I sing hallelujah, I do believe it's happening. We're almost
27 more minutes. I'm
trying. Said, you're almost to the top of the mountain.
I'm trying. We're trying. Yeah, exactly. Like PD said. All right. 1:33 on this Thursday afternoon. Just a couple of days left here in the month of April. And then it comes May. And that's generally a fun time of the year in college baseball. If you're good, Carolina happens to be, but they're going to head to Oxford this weekend to try to continue that. We'll get into that in just a minute. But first, as we welcome our good buddy, David Cloninger from the Post and Courier onto our phone lines, we'll talk some NFL draft stuff. Hey, DC, what's up, man?
Not too much, fellas. How you doing today?
Well, we're fine. I can't speak for some reason. I don't have a voice. I woke up this morning and it was like the radio fairy stripped it from me. So I don't know. You need to handle this next. Just talk for 26 straight minutes.
Well, I can do that. I mean, my wife says I can usually double that and not even think about it. So
That's right.
But yeah, go get some of those little butterscotch candies. Those always work. Always just disappearing. So.
Oh, do they really? I didn't realize that. The little ones in the little
They've always
wrappers.
worked for me.
Okay, that's good to know.
The Werther.
Yeah, my mother-in-law's in town.
I mean, I guess those could work, but these little butterscotch ones, they come in a yellow wrapper. You usually find like a bag of them at a convenience store for like 50 cents. There's probably like 20 of them in a bag. You know what I'm talking about? Little yellow round ones.
Well, my mother-in-law's here, so I'm going to send her on a grocery store run so I can grab a couple of those because this sucks, to be honest with you. All right, DC, let's get to the draft. Tonight, J.C. Horn will hear his name called at some point in time, but he will be the 15th first-round selection in the history of South Carolina football. I think he'll be the third in the last 4 years if my numbers are correct. You've got a really a great column up at thepostingcourier.com about J.C. Horn. I'd like to talk about him as a person. You've spent plenty of time around him, well, even with COVID, over the last 3 years. What have you learned about J.C., the human being, not the football player?
Always been very committed to what he wanted to do, and whether that's, obviously football was what he's going to be doing through his profession, but whether that was academics or just going to get something to eat. He was always that guy that had a plan, and always that guy who said, I'm going to implement this plan. So it's not that he didn't like to have fun, but, he knew when it was time to quit messing around and get to work. So very committed, a guy who was very passionate about what he did. I know that a lot of people turned on him when he quit the team with 3 games left to go, and that's how I voiced it, that he quit. But as he said, it's what I felt I had to do. I felt that, I had been betrayed a little bit by them firing my coach. And so he has no regrets about doing that. And he still has no regrets about representing South Carolina. He's very proud to be a Gamecock. I know a lot of people, weren't happy with him after that. But he's still very proud to be a Gamecock. And as he said, he can't, be at the draft in person tonight, but he's hoping to be able to sports Gamecock colors when his name gets called.
I'm not going to give away your entire article that's in the Post and Courier. I would encourage people to read this, but I did find it interesting that his father, Joe, at one point in time in his career when he was trying to decide where he would play college football, wanted to be at South Carolina. And I'll encourage people to read the column as to why he wasn't a Gamecock, but he did want to be here. Did JC but that didn't affect JC's decision to come to South Carolina. He made this decision on his own. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Joe Horn did want to come to South Carolina. He grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and he grew up watching Sterling Sharp and Robert Brooks. And he was coming to all the camps. He came to a bunch of Joe Morrison's camps. They really wanted him, but he didn't have grades to get in. So, I think JC knew that Joe had been at least interested, while growing up, but they never really talked about it until JC made up his mind to come to South Carolina and sign. Then Joe told him, I never told you this because I didn't want to influence your decision, but South Carolina was my top choice. That's where he wanted to go. And I don't think he ever actually signed. I've looked through all the recruiting releases from that time period, and I can't find his name anywhere. But, he at least would have if he'd have had the grades. To come be a Gamecock. So he took a really interesting journey to the NFL, and obviously JC is going to take a much more streamlined journey. But, it was interesting to go back into their background and realize, Joe Horn was a Gamecock guy. He wanted to be here, and when he whipped out that cell phone on the Sunday Night Football game against the Giants and had the cell phone underneath the goalpost pad and lifted up to call him, he pretended he was calling the Sun. So I've always thought that was a neat little thing.
I thought that was incredibly neat. I actually forgot about that until I read the article this morning. Have you spent DC over the last few years? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody who's played wide receiver or any wide receiver really, but maybe in particular one or two that have played at South Carolina, an Alshon Jeffrey, a Pharaoh Cooper, or whomever you want, Deebo Samuel, and just got their thoughts on what they see in J.C. Horn as he is a guy who might have to defend one of those guys or all of them in the NFL?
Now, I've talked to a couple of guys like that, Debo, to carry on, some guys who are still on the team now, and it's like, yeah, he's got all the skills. I mean, he's big, he's strong, he's fast, he's lengthy, he can go up and get the ball. Really, he played so well as a freshman, and then he played so well as a sophomore, and he switched positions. At first he was playing nickel, and then he went to corner, and, would drop back to safety sometimes as well. A lot of people, kind of got lost in the shuffle about just how good he was, just because maybe the teams weren't as good around him, and obviously that big, 0 under career takeaways. He just never could quite get that interception, never could quite get that fumble, but he never really had those opportunities either. As Will Muschamp kept pointing out, he's like, the guys don't throw to him, and that's why he's out there. He could take away one side of the field. That's exactly what you want to do as a cornerback. So, in receivers who have played against him, and this is like from Seth Williams for Auburn, and Horn's, basically best game last year. He was like, the guy was all over me, and he completed a couple. And, there were a couple of flags thrown, pass interference, but mostly JC was up in his grill all day and just wouldn't make it easy. And, the numbers speak for themselves. 4 breakups, 2 picks, and, tipped away another one that became a third pick. So he's done very well for himself, and he'll kind of be the first defensive back in the Horn family to go make it in the pros, because all the other guys were receivers. But, Joe saw it very young and said, it's a lot easier to be a defensive back than a wide receiver. I can tell you that.
On Twitter at DCPNC, David Cloninger with the Post and Courier. This is more of an opinion-based question, DC, because over the years we have seen a lot of members of the South Carolina secondary make it to the NFL, and not just make it to the NFL, become superstars in the league. Obviously, Stephon Gilmore is the one that really shines bright today, but there have been plenty of others. Jonathan Joseph has been in the NFL since it seems like 1960. Or it was. These guys have been around a long time. Of all the DBs, I lump the word secondary because we've seen other guys, who've gone on and done great stuff in the league. Where do you fit J.C. Horn into that mix of some of these other great names that have worn the Gamecock uniform?
Well, guys, it's tough to make comparisons now because, how do you judge it? Is it by college careers, about pro potential? Because obviously JC is going to be picked in the first round tonight, but he hasn't played a pro game yet. We gotta see how he goes up there and does it. But in terms of the talent, the potential, he's right up there with any of them. Any of those guys who went to the NFL and stuck around and had a long career. So, I think that he'll probably maybe not always get the respect he deserved. If he doesn't go up and blow up right away in the NFL, or if he's not a superstar in the NFL but still has a pretty strong career, I think people will look back and be like, well, he's on the Muschamp team, so nobody really talked about him much. Well, I can see that. They didn't win much. He didn't get a lot of opportunities just because people didn't throw his way. But you look back at some of those other guys that you mentioned, it's like, well, people did throw their way. So maybe in that vein, JC commanded a lot more respect than those other guys did, if you want to take it that far. But, it's a case of where South Carolina has put a lot of defensive backs in the league. And it is kind of funny if you look back, and this will be the 15th first rounder that they've had. The very first guy was a defensive back. Very first rounder they had, Rick Sanford, was a defensive back. Yep. And Jonathan Joseph was, and Stephon Gilmore was, and now JC was. And, the only knock I can say about JC Horn fitting in with that line, he's real good, but think how good he was, or think how good he'd be if he was from Rock Hill, like those other guys. Come on
now. Well done. You got to slip that in there. I don't blame you. Well, it is Football City, USA. We all know that.
Damn right. That's right. Don't forget it.
It's an interesting turn of events, and I don't mean this as a knock at all on Izzy McCwamu at all. I you know what? I everything I know about him, he's a really good kid, and I really hope he has a wonderful career in the NFL. But it is interesting how it's changed, DC. And you and I, we've had this conversation. I bet 9 or 10 times over the last couple of years. You know, he popped on the radar after that Georgia game where he had the 3 picks, and all of a sudden he was up on all these major draft boards. And we all, those who saw every snap of every game, were like, okay, no offense to Izzy McCwamu. What a great player. Had a great game. But, man, have you seen J.C. Horn play? You know, we all said it. And unless you really watched him every week, you never did. And then all of a sudden he pops after the Auburn game, and the rest is history. But these guys will be pulling for each other no matter what happens in the draft, and they hope to be a dynamic duo maybe somewhere in the league at some point in time. But it's just funny to see how it's all kind of changed over the last, I'd say, 365 days, because coming into the 2020 season, all the attention nationally was on Izzy McCwamu.
Oh, sure. And, deservedly. He had, I think, had 5 picks that season, 3 in one game. And a lot of it, he always gave the credit, said, well, they ain't going to throw to JC. They're going to throw to my side, and I'll do my best to get over there. So, Izzy, as tall as he was, at 6'6", you didn't think that, well, I don't know if he's really fit to be a cornerback. Maybe he should be a safety. But he always kept playing very well. I mean, he had another, 2 picks last year. And that was in limited time because he was banged up so much. So, I've seen, obviously he is coming out and working out with the draft and all that too. Haven't seen his name on as many mock draft boards lately. I'm hoping that's just an aberration, that he does get his name called, but I'm sure he will get an invite to some kind of camp, as we move forward. But, it's strange how that kind of works, but just as all the attention came to Israel after that big game against Georgia, JC just started getting all the attention that he really deserved after that Auburn game. It was like, oh, okay, you see, we knew we had it in him all the time. It's just he finally got the opportunity to go do that. And, it was great to see it. And obviously that was a very memorable game. First time they ever beat Auburn as members of the SEC. And, they did it at home. They did it 30-22, which coincidentally was also the score the first time they beat Florida as a member of the SEC in 2005. Yeah. I always found that really weird that it was the same score each time. I'm like, man, okay. So now, if they can finally beat Texas A&M, they can finally say that, hey, you've beaten everybody in the conference.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I remember that Florida game well. Because nobody left the ballpark, and it was 45 minutes after the game. That was a fun day in Columbia, South Carolina. As far as the rest of the guys go, who are hoping to hear their names called, DC, Shi Smith, Sedarius Hutcherson, and Ernest Jones, I would say we could probably stop there. But I think they will all hear their names called. Sedarius Hutcherson is going to get drafted probably late, and so is Shi Smith, probably somewhere in the middle of this thing. But Ernest Jones has been a great story to follow. I mean, he's a guy, when he declared, I don't know that we questioned why, but I think we wondered what it would look like, and it's looked really good. He has shot up the draft boards. What have you learned about Ernest Jones over the last couple of months, and how he has worked to make his stock rise as high as it has?
Well, you're exactly right, Jamie. I mean, when he did make his decision, I'm like, well, that's not surprising. I mean, you want to go ahead and go while you still can and while you're at the top of your game. He led the Gamecocks in tackles all 3 years. But looking at him, I was like, I don't know if he's got the size to be an NFL linebacker, and he doesn't have the speed to drop back in defensive back. So really hope this works out for you, because he was a great kid, just terrific, outstanding kid to cover. But he got into camps, he got into tryouts, he got into pro day and all that. Not only did well in those tests, but it's like all the coaches and GMs kept saying, it's like he is always where he needs to be. His awareness is just off the charts, and that's what you got to have to be an NFL linebacker. So they've all noticed that, and it's why he's going to get picked sometime this weekend, and it could be tomorrow in the second or third round, which is going to be just huge for him. A guy who may not be as big, who may not be as fast as some of the other linebacker prospects, but it's what he brings to the table from an intelligence standpoint, from a knowledge of the game standpoint, that has really moved him up those draft boards. So they noticed that. And, I've always thought that the NFL Combine, some of the pro day workouts are a crock. It's just like, come on, man. I mean, you can't judge if a guy's going to be a good NFL player by how fast he runs around an orange cone. You just can't do that. It doesn't work that way. But they swear by him. And, there are some times where they take those tests and it hurts you. You take those tests and it helps you. Where it helped with Ernest was he was able to do those and go and he could watch film with them and be like, okay, here, and they would see it firsthand. See, he couldn't have done that last year during the pandemic. So it was actually kind of fortunate that everything eased up enough to where he could do it this year.
1:49 Thursday afternoon, the NFL draft tonight. Good recap there, or a good bit of information passed along by our friend David Cloninger. They'll have you covered tomorrow in the Post and Courier. They've had you covered in the Post and Courier on this name, image, and likeness bill that is making its way through the South Carolina state government. I guess it's all set to head to the governor's desk, D.C. What have you learned about this bill over the last, I guess, a few weeks? I know yesterday it made its way through the House of Representatives, I believe, in the capital city. Do we know exactly how this thing is written and what is in the bill? I know every state has a couple of little things that are different.
Well, it's pretty much just a yes/no question. It said, like, are we going to allow college athletes in our state to profit off of their name, image, and likeness? They're not going to be able to regulate, who can and who can't, because that's really an NCAA rule. And the NCAA's rule is simple. It's you can't wear your school name or your school color. If you're going to endorse anything, you can't endorse alcohol, tobacco, anything like that. That's against an NCAA rule. But pretty much everything else is fair game. So the NCAA kept saying we have to be in joint step with Congress. We need to pass a universal law. But, they're not going to do that. I mean, the NCAA has operated for years making their own rules without any benefit from Congress or any input from Congress because Congress had nothing to do with it. So this is the NCAA just trying to drag their heels to, keep their antiquated notion of amateurism alive. And it's just not going to happen. So in the South Carolina bill, it was pretty much saying, do you want to allow the kids to profit off their name, image, and likeness? Yes. Okay, it barely passed the Senate, but it passed. But it got to the House, and it overwhelmingly passed. So now it just has to go to the governor's desk to sign it, which I assume he will, and then the law would actually go into effect next year, probably next summer, before the football season starts. So if that comes to pass, and it should, what will happen is it's pretty much fair game and a free-for-all with some of the, companies, businesses, whatever, who follow college athletics. And that could be anyone from a local restaurant here in Columbia to, say, Adidas shoe giant, or maybe not Adidas. Let me strike that. But, some kind of clothing line who could go on to, let's say, Zaya Cook's Instagram page and say, hey, listen, if you'll just model these clothes for us on your Instagram page, we'll pay you. And, we're getting the free advertising for it as well. And that's how it's going to be. So there are some folks concerned about how recruiting is going to be impacted, but there's going to be so many states passing this that it's going to be just a moot point. It'll say, look, it's going to be what it always has been, in that the rich are going to make the rules, and that if you can pay the most, that's where the players are going to be. So we'll see how all this goes. It's going to create a lot of trickle-down effect because the NCAA will be made even more obsolete than they are now. And the schools are going to have to handle it because there's going to be a lot of egos involved. There's going to be a lot of kids who aren't getting some of the money that, their more visible teammates are. That's going to create some issues in the locker room. So we'll see how all this goes. But in terms of everything getting ready to happen, it's going to happen. And I think that the actual first two states, which is, Florida's kind of backtrack now, but there'll be one state I think goes into effect July 1st of this year. So we'll see how all that goes, and then once it gets here in South Carolina, we'll see if there's any tweaks to those rules.
Yeah, that was kind of my follow-up question was Carolina, the state of South Carolina putting their foot on the gas pedal here, because I know that everybody is in a race to get your NIL bill out there, every state in the country or however you want to word that. But really in particular, it's your region, right? Like South Carolina isn't up against, Oklahoma on this. They've got Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Virginia, Tennessee, all these states around them prepared to enact these NIL bills and put them into place. And that's their recruiting ground. So South Carolina needs to be on par with all these states.
Yeah, exactly. And, that they, of course, it's easy to say that, well, we want to do one base set of laws to govern this. You can't do that because there's always going to be one player who gets more and one player who gets less. So what they had to do is say, like, look, if you're really serious about passing this law and you don't want to be left behind because every other state is passing this law, then you got to go ahead and pass it. And the actual law is just simple. Do you want to allow it or not? And they voted yes. So it will happen, and we'll see how it starts changing the game. But, it's one of those where, I mean, a lot of people have different opinions. Is recruiting going to be affected? Whatever. It's going to make an unfair game. Well, it's unfair now. It's always been about, who the schools that have the most money are going to make the rules. So we'll see how this goes. But it's not happening yet. But within a year, we'll probably be sitting here talking about like, oh yeah, I just saw Leah Boston just picked up a deal with fingernail polish, and she's gonna be wearing that during games, and she was showing it off on her Twitter. And it's like, well, how much does she make off that? Like, you know what? You don't even have to worry about it because as long as it's legal to make X amount of dollars, she can make it, and that's what the game will be.
All right, real quick before we let you run here, final, I'd say 3 minutes or so, DC. A very important series for South Carolina baseball this weekend. The travel is going to be rather ludicrous, if you ask me, having to stay an hour away from the ballpark and all those type things. That's for another day. But right now, they would be considered a regional host. Ole Miss has been bumped to a 2-line. So this is an incredibly important series to South Carolina. Florida has played their way right back in to the conversation to be a regional host. They've got Vanderbilt this weekend. They win the series. They could be vying for one of those spots as well. So Carolina is in a great position, but they're also in an interesting position to be able to lose that potential regional host if they don't keep winning.
Well, that's something to be said, Jamie. But the fact is that when they make the announcement, they're going to be picking parks that they know will host well. And Founders Park is always going to be at the top of that list, no matter the record of the team playing in it. Obviously, they don't have a crystal ball right now, but they know South Carolina's done well in the past, and they're having a very good season. So as long as they don't just completely tank, they'll probably be getting one of those regional hosts. The new rule is that they're actually going to announce 20 hosts on May 10th, and that way they'll have 4 that they can kind of move around and say, well, you guys played yourselves in, you guys played yourselves out. So there's not going to be a limit on SEC schools or ACC schools that can host. They're going to give it to the biggest parks because they want the biggest crowds. So South Carolina's in a very good position, and obviously you can keep firming up that position with a series win. It's a big series for a lot of reasons, but the main thing is because it's next on the schedule. The Gamecocks played well last weekend. They could have played better, but they played well against a really, really good team. And they're going to have to go do it again this weekend, and they need to win that series.
Wes Clark, is he a guy we should maybe keep an eye on, at least early in this series? If any word on Colin Burgess, first of all?
He will travel. He's going to be on the plane, but he's day-to-day. He got banged up pretty bad against Arkansas, but he will travel, so that's at least an encouraging sign. We'll see if he plays. Personally, I'm not going to be real surprised if Wes Clark is catching tomorrow night.
Me neither. Thomas Farr got back on track last week. DC, what do you expect to see out of him tomorrow?
Well, I mean, he's been pitching well. And the fact is that I know he's been kind of the hard luck loser in some of these Friday night games, but you're going against real good guys too. So USC hit the ball pretty well the other day against the Citadel. They need to keep doing that. It's not going to be easy, but it never is in this league. So Thomas just got to go out there and say, okay, don't walk anybody. I mean, those have been the biggest problems, amongst the whole pitching staff for a while now. So just keep the ball down in the strike zone. It's a hitter's park out there in Oxford. So just be on your game, and the hitters will take care of their business.
I almost wonder too, and we'll leave it at this, but if Wes Clark is behind the plate at all this weekend, 3 for 3 the other night, maybe that got him going, maybe it didn't. We'll see. The Citadel and Ole Miss are a little bit different, but you almost wonder, sometimes it's helpful to actually be playing throughout the entire game than just walking up to the plate 3 or 4 times. Maybe if he starts behind the plate, that could help him mentally.
Well, you hope so. And the main thing with that is that, look, he needed to start hitting the ball. And he did that the other night against the Citadel, and he was on base all 5 plate appearances. So he just needed to see a few drop in there, and he was working that left field line like a part-time job. So he's got to do that again. And, I mean, he was down to 264 when he stepped in the first time the other night. And I guess he's up to around 285 now, 290, something like that.
Yeah.
So as long as you just see a few hits go in when they haven't been finding holes, that's all the confidence you need. And he'll go up there and be like, okay, I know the kind of word's out on me, but I tell you what, you try to sneak a fastball through and then see what happens. And maybe Ole Miss will be, daring enough or foolish enough to give him that fastball.
Well, maybe he'll hit one into somebody's beer out there in right center field. And
he'll have a lot of targets. There will be a lot of targets out there if he wants to do it.
It's bound to hit one.
Watch a ball game. It really is. It's a great atmosphere, great series. I've done a few series out there, and it is a terrific baseball atmosphere.
Absolutely. I admire the state of Mississippi and what they've done with their baseball. It's a great place. Looking forward actually next weekend to Scott Foxhall and Chris Lamonis with that Mississippi State staff coming back to the state of South Carolina. Wonderful people. And so are you, DC. Great, really great stuff in that Shi Smith column today. The JC Horn column today. And really looking forward to this entire weekend in the Post and Courier. You got a lot to get to. We know you're busy, but as always, it's great work. Thanks, bud. We'll talk to you soon.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
There you go. DC will have you covered with the draft tonight. Baseball this weekend. Man.
I'm telling you, not a lot of bourbon. Just sip it. It helps. Just coat the vocal cords.
I'm telling you. This is a big baseball weekend. Clemson's got number 4 Louisville this weekend. Place where the Cardinals don't play well. So tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun for us. We're looking forward to that. Have fun in the draft tonight. Thanks to Skylar Meade, Cory McCartney, and David Cloninger for joining us. Thanks to Darren. Thanks to all of you. I'm going to go sip on some bourbon and try to get this whole voice thing figured out. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a thirsty Thursday afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.